Okay. Hello, everyone, to our very first Nook with Cranney. I am Andrew Nicastro, Marketing Manager with Cranney Companies, here with Richard Ingalls, aka Ringles, my man.
Yes,
How are
sir.
you?
Excellent. How you doing?
Good, good. So, the Nook with Cranney is a show designed to educate you, our audience, on your home and the systems that make your home function. So, whether you're a realtor, a homeowner, even just someone trying to buy a home, this show can really help you and educate you. Keep an eye on the chat. That's in the bottom right corner of the webpage. You can fill in your questions there, and at the end of the show, we'll take 10 minutes to answer those questions. To get things going, I'm just going to start by a little introduction of both of us. I'm Andrew Nicastro, with the marketing manager with Cranney. Richard Ingalls, our installation manager, has been with Cranney for over 10 years now.
Yep.
You've kind of done it all, Rich, from small residential to large commercial projects.
Yeah, I started out doing commercial and residential at the time when we first, when HVAC was pretty much just kind of getting underway, and over the years, then eventually I moved over into the home services division as the install manager, and I try to cover as much, as I can as far as helping out other people and just kind of wherever I'm needed.
Okay. So as we get things going here, today's topic is based on home winterization. So we're going to talk about a little bit of everything from flue pipes to winter PMs to filters to changing the settings on your fans,
Yeah, thermostat set points.
thermostat set points, a little bit of everything.
Sure.
So this show is going to change throughout every month. We're thinking the first Thursday, Friday of every month. And the idea is to educate you on the homes that you sell, live in, or are trying to purchase. So why don't we start by getting right into today's topic of home winterization? Okay, so the first point that we want to talk about is changing out your furnace filters.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't really even realize that they do have filters in their machines. Unless they have a service technician come in and do service annually. Some people buy houses and then they just kind of think that the heat runs when I turn the thermostat on. But there's a lot, a lot more to it as far as regular winter maintenance. Clean outs, filters. Um, and that's the one thing that's going to make your system and your house run as efficiently as possible.
So tell me, Rich, how many different types of filters are there?
Oh God, there's a lot of different types. There's your standard blue fiberglass mesh filter, which we usually just take out and throw away because they're really not efficient at all. They're best for stopping small animals from getting into your machines. But we usually recommend doing at a minimum a 1 inch pleated filter, and that way you're going to pick up a lot more of the smaller, finer particles and dust and stuff like that. But then you can get into even higher efficiency filters. There are 5 inch filters that are deeper as far as the pleats go, so there's a lot more surface area or fabric. And by having more surface area, it can pick up more particulate and not get as dirty as fast. So those ones you're usually looking at about once a year to change those out. With just a regular 1 inch pleated filter, you're probably looking at changing one out every couple of few months. What I recommend doing is getting into your furnace, pull your filter out after 1 month of changing it. If it looks like it's dirty, it's time to change it. If it looks clean, put it in, leave it in there for another month, and then if you check it the second month, then you kind of can get an idea as to the frequency of how often you need to change it. Yeah, so that's yeah, and then there's a million other options too as far as with the high efficiency filters. You can go to a carbon clean filter, which has a charcoal layer in it, which absorbs odors and stuff like that. And then there's ultraviolet lights, which help cut down on odors. They kill bacteria, viruses, mildew, mold. So it's all just to help keep the inside of your machine clean and keep it running as efficient as it possibly can.
Now, so I know with our Cranney value plans, which is just an incredible value for homeowners that sign up for it, that's one piece that we help them with when we come out for our annual system checks, right?
Yeah, for our annual system checks, our technician will come in and do a thorough evaluation of the system itself, and then make any recommendations that he might notice that could give you problems over the next few months. Number one priority is making sure that the filter is clean and that the inside of the machine is clean. Any of that dust that's inside the machine is eventually going to make its way into the system and eventually into your house. So number one priority as far as fall goes is, make sure you get a good fall maintenance. Winter. Get your machine ready for the winter, so that way when it is cold out, you don't have to worry about having a guy come in and do a tune-up on the machine. You sort of have that insurance where it's like, I know my machine's going to be operating fine, because it's working fine in the fall. So, we kind of give them that guarantee that if we do our thorough evaluation and come up with our list of options as far as what needs to be done, then we can guarantee that that machine's going to operate 100% for the next year.
So with your filters, make sure to have them checked. If not by yourself, by a Cranney technician. They are how your home stays clean. So make sure to change your filters and to check your filters. Winterizing AC and water lines, but even more importantly, drainage spigots. So this is something that homeowners can check on themselves.
Yeah, if they are comfortable with working on it, absolutely. But I definitely recommend having one of our guys come in and take a peek at it, because if there is something that we can do to improve it a little bit more, as far as putting the ball valve farther away from the spigot and putting a drawer off so we can drain the water out of that line, then you know that those outside water spigots are protected, because there's just that little bit of water in that spigot. If that freezes, it'll expand and cause it to burst. So by winterizing those outdoor spigots and maybe putting that little hat on there that you can get at the Home Depot for a couple of dollars, it's just one more line of defense where you know your house is going to be protected.
It's amazing how just a few dollars now can save a lot of dollars later.
Oh,
right?
Thousands, yeah, absolutely.
So are there any telltale signs to where a spigot might be freezing, or there might be a red flag for that?
Well, if you notice that your spigot does drip, it's definitely something to take a look at, because any of that water that's leaving that spigot is going to drain, is going to freeze. Plus, you're wasting your own water. So if you do notice that you have stuff that's dripping, we can definitely take care of it. Put a new spigot on, or put a ball valve on it to drain it, and then we could address it in the spring.
Okay, so make sure to keep an eye on your spigots. They can freeze naturally with water. So this is something to keep an eye on, especially if you notice that there's dripping in the past.
Yeah, if any dripping, that's your first thing is, you see it dripping, there's something wrong with that valve.
And so this is one that I always love to talk about, because, as a homeowner, you're always looking for how you can help your own home. So reversing your ceiling fans. Something as simple as that can make a difference in your home.
Yeah, and a lot of ceiling fan manufacturers did a lot of research on this, and actually the federal government was the one that mandated that ceiling fans have switches on them to be able to reverse their cycle. And then come to find out over the years, after doing a lot of research, that it really doesn't make a huge difference. But if you do leave your ceiling fan on the lowest setting, lowest speed possible, pulling up or blowing down, it's going to just help circulate the air in your house, bring that warm air down from the ceiling, and bring that cold air up from the floor, and just sort of help keep it a little bit more even. And some manufacturers now have occupancy sensors on their fans, so they can tell when there's a person in the room, and the fan will slow down to low. And then when that person leaves the room, the fan will crank up and really move a lot of air around to kind of help keep everything a lot more even. And it cuts down on drafts. When you have that fan running at high speed, you're going to feel wind. If you put it on low speed, then most likely you're just going to feel maybe a little bit of a draft, but most likely it's just going to kind of move the air around a little bit and just keep it nice and even.
So is there a certain time of the year where they should know, like, all right, it reaches this temperature, I should switch things up, or how should they keep track of that?
Yeah, the way I usually recommend it is once you get down below 32, once you're down in the freezing, or once you get down into the area where you start turning your heat on, then it's time to reverse it. So in the wintertime, you want to have that fan kind of sucking up to the top, so it pulls the hot air so it blows the hot air from up high and kind of circulates it down low. And then in the summertime, we just have it so it blows straight down, so it's pushing that hot air down and kind of moving that cool air around to help keep it a little bit more even.
And going back to the filters, making all this come full circle. If you have dirty filters or a dirty system, then that just will be pushing around dirty air.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if in your furnace or your air conditioner, if you have a dirty filter in there, that dirt's going to build up enough where it's going to eventually start sucking through that filter and blowing the dust into your house. So it's not really doing you any favors by being dirty.
And now all the circulation we're doing with the fans is just circulating that
It's going to
rough
move it around
dirt.
everywhere, right?
Yeah. So ceiling fans, just a small piece of what you can do to help your home and to help it feel more comfortable.
Mhm.
Okay, now cleaning gutters. Now I know a few years ago this was a big issue, specifically with ice dams and those major storms we had.
Yeah, when you start getting a lot of snow on the roofs of these houses, the house is warm, so it's going to start to melt that lowest layer of snow that's right on the roof. And as that water runs down your roof, it hits the edge where there is no more snow to sort of insulate it from, the elements outside, and it's going to start to freeze. As it freezes, it starts building up a dam, which pushes back on the shingles, and then the water starts, coming down through your roof, and could potentially cause serious damage: ceilings, walls, paint, carpets, you name it. Yeah, the possibilities are really endless as far as water. Water goes everywhere, and it has it takes no prisoners really. It just destroys everything in its path.
So does this go even to the extent of leaves, keeping leaves out of the gutters, or is this more ice related?
Yeah, if you have a lot of leaves in your gutters and your water isn't draining out of the gutters, those are going to start to freeze up. And as ice gets heavy, as ice freezes, it's going to start to increase the weight inside those gutters. It could end up damaging the gutters or build up enough where it does cause the ice dams to push back up on the shingles.
So how can homeowners prevent this? Is there something that we can provide?
Yeah, we install heat tape, which is a resistant electric strip that runs along the edge of the roof and keeps that ice melted, keeps that water flowing. And then just make sure you have your gutters cleaned out. At the end of the fall, all those leaves fall. They all start getting saturated with moisture, and they plug up those downspouts, really easily. So drainage is key, and heat tape is it's huge as far as keeping that thawed. No ice is good.
Right. So this was something interesting that I learned recently when we were talking about in one of our meetings heat tape. So heat tape can only be installed certain times of the year.
Yeah. Well, if the roof is wet or if there's snow on it, obviously it's going to be pretty hard to have our adhesives don't like to stick to moisture.
Right.
So the drier months are better. Spring, summer, fall. And like this season, this winter, it's been sort of mild, so there's still some potential where we could get some systems installed before the real heavy snow starts coming.
Okay, so with your gutters, make sure to keep them clear of leaves. Make sure to keep them clear of ice and buildup of that kind of snow and water. If you want a preventive solution, look into heat tape.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So winter PMs and giving your heating system a tune-up. Now, what is entailed with a tune-up?
The tune-up, it really depends on the type of system, but on, say, a standard efficiency furnace or a standard efficiency boiler, we would, pull the machine apart, pull all the burners out, brush them down, vacuum it all out, make sure everything's nice and clean, and basically just do a thorough evaluation of the system, make sure that the spark igniter or the thermocouple is in good shape. Recommend replacing the thermocouple annually, just so that you're going to have a pilot that's lit and you're not going to have any issues with it. And then just running the system through its paces, making sure that it's actually operating in the way that it's designed, in the way that it was supposed to be operating from the manufacturer. And then we always make some recommendations as far as doing upgrades, any enhancements to the system, high efficiency air cleaners, humidification, surge protection. There's a lot of other options out there. Even if your furnace is brand new, there's a lot of stuff out there that's going to help increase the longevity, increase the lifespan of your machine by keeping it cleaner and by keeping the air that you guys breathe a lot cleaner.
So, are there times of the year where homeowners need to really make sure to have this done?
I like to recommend doing it early in the spring, early in the fall. That way you kind of have that peace of mind that my system's already been gone through. So when that severe weather hits, you know that it's going to operate. Plus, with our value plan members, we send out our newsletters, and they have coupons too. So earlier in the season, we have a coupon for a tune-up that's going to be a lot less expensive than our normal pricing. So it's better to jump on those as soon as you get them in your hands. Book an appointment, get our guys in there, and that way we can make sure your machine's going to run.
And so with a tune-up, does that include, going back to those filters, does that include the filter changes?
Yeah, our tune-ups do include a standard 1-inch filter. When you get into the higher efficiency filters, they're a lot more expensive, so we can't really include those. But we do provide pricing for all that stuff. So it's definitely it's up to the customer. And plus, with those higher efficiency filters, they don't get as dirty as fast, so it kind of extends the time that you have to change it. So it sort of cuts down on how expensive they really are. Where if you normally would replace a 1-inch filter 3 or 4 times a year, you're only replacing this 5-inch filter once a year. So the comparison in price is pretty close. But the benefits for the higher efficiency filter are that much better.
It's funny because I think there's an analogy that we've heard a million times here at Cranney. This is a piece of mechanical equipment you're working with here. You have your car checked a few times a year. You should have your system checked a couple times a year at least.
Yeah, at least. I would say, once in the spring, once in the fall, especially if you have a furnace with an air conditioning coil on top of it, or if you have a heat pump, definitely twice a year. Air is going through those coils every time that fan is running. So anytime that fan is running, there's dust being moved around. Even if you have a high efficiency filter, then it's still going to let a little bit of particulate through, and then it could start building up on the coil and decreasing the efficiency of the machine.
And would anything change as far as if you have an oil system, like you said, a heat pump or a furnace?
Yeah, with
How would
oil
things
systems,
change?
you have to do a clean out at least once a year. The gas machines run a little bit cleaner, but you'd still, it's a great idea to at least have a technician kind of put eyes on it and make sure that everything is up to par as far as it being ready to perform.
So have your heating system checked at least once a year. It's critical to the lifetime value of your equipment as well as the efficiency and the air quality that's coming through your system.
Absolutely.
So this is a big one, and this is one I really like to touch on. It can be overlooked. Carbon monoxide detectors.
Yeah, carbon monoxide detectors are probably your best line of defense as far as anything that burns fuel is going to create carbon monoxide, and it's an odorless, colorless gas, and on average it kills about 500 people per year, which is 500 too many really. Especially where they sell these devices that are fairly inexpensive, and they're protecting lives. They're protecting the people that live in these houses. So anytime we do an install on a new furnace or a new boiler or anything, we always include a combination carbon monoxide smoke detector that's hardwired with a battery backup. And that's within reach of the machine itself. But if you do have anything that's gas fired or oil fired or anything like that, Mass Code recommends, Mass Code requires that that the customer has a carbon monoxide detector on every occupied floor. So when we do our sales, we always make sure that the customer's aware of the fact that, hey, you need to have a carbon monoxide detector on at least every floor. You could put them in every room for that matter, and it's just that much more protection that you could have.
So, like you said, having as many as possible is fair if you want that. Is there better places to have them? For example, like you said, kitchens, because there's a lot of cooking.
Combustion. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. There really isn't the best place to have them is all over the place, because that way that you're protected. I would have one at least in bedrooms, and then probably in the main living area, at least one. They have ones that plug in. We also have ones that are hardwired that we can wire right to the ceiling. So there's a lot of different brands and a lot of different options out there. I would pick a reputable name brand if you were searching for them, because you want to be protected, and you want to know that you have that a good name behind it to kind of back it up.
Absolutely. I know, when we were doing our research on all of this, I had found a family in Western Massachusetts, in which every family member, there's 3 of them,
Yep.
that all got carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yep. Yeah, and that was parents and a young son. I think the son was, I believe, under 5 years old.
Yeah,
You
little.
know, so and it doesn't care how old you are or who you are. It'll take you, without even question.
And how about batteries? Should you check it at least once a year,
I
more
would
than that?
I would check it I would check it twice a year. I would check it at least, what I recommend is when we turn the clocks back. You turn the clocks back, you got to go and check your battery and your smoke detector, carbon monoxide detector.
Right.
And again, that's just another line of defense. If for some reason you lost power in your house, you would still have another device there to sort of protect you.
Yeah. So carbon monoxide detectors, make sure to have them at least one on every floor of livable space, and make sure to check the batteries at least a couple times a year.
Definitely, yeah.
And temperature set points. This always seems to be a fan favorite, trying to figure out what I should set my temperature to.
Yeah, a lot of people in the older school of thought was when you go out to work, you turn your thermostat down to 55 degrees. When you get home, you turn it up to 70. It's pretty much the most inefficient way to run your system, especially on higher efficiency systems. They don't like those huge hills to climb. They like to just barely run and just barely heat. So if you give it 5-10 degrees to heat, it's going to run with the fan at high speed, and it's going to run with 100% fuel consumption. So you're going to be using every ounce of fuel that machine is designed to use. So what we recommend doing is, if you normally keep your set point at, let's just say, 70 degrees, when you go out to work, just bump it down to 68 degrees. So that way it kind of gives the machine a little while to sort of relax, and allows the house to cool down a little bit, and then it doesn't give it that huge hill to climb when it goes to reheat the house. The way I explain it is, it's just like a car. With the older machines, you start the engine and you put your foot right to the floor and you drive as fast as you can. That's how these older machines run. The newer machines are more gradual. They kick on and they just sort of run at a lower percentage, and then they ramp up from there depending on the load that they're up against. So by keeping those set points a little bit closer, it doesn't give them those huge hills to climb, and that way you're not going to use as much fuel or as much electricity. When you go to bed and stuff, I crank mine down to about 60 when I go to bed anyway, just because I like it cold. So the machine does have to struggle a little bit to bring it back up in the morning, but once I get it at set point, then I just let it carry the load for the rest of the day.
So let's say, we have one of our audience members here. They're going away on vacation, and they want to set it to that point that is as low as possible, but not unsafe. What is that point?
It's recommended that you don't go lower than 55 degrees. 55, 60 degrees, I wouldn't go much lower than that. And that way it keeps pretty much the whole house at a fairly consistent temperature. But you do have to be careful, because there are those certain places in your house that are always colder than the other places. So if you have your thermostat set for 55, it could be down to 45 degrees in other areas of the house, and the thermostat doesn't know it, because it only knows what temperature it is right there where the stat is.
So how about for different system types or for different fuel types? Does temperature set points change, or the manner that you handle them change?
Realistically, no. But like I was saying, with the older machines, they run at 100% right from the word go.
No matter what, yeah.
So if you do set your machine back and then kick it back on, it's gonna run as hot as it can. So try to keep them as close as you can to what what your normal set point is. If you want to go 4 or 5 degrees, it's your house. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but as far as efficiency goes, try to keep it around the same area as your normal set point, and that way the machine doesn't have to work as hard to carry that load.
That's right. So for temperature set points, it's a new train of thought. It's a different era of equipment. Those minimal changes are actually the more efficient way to do it. No longer the ups and downs that temperature set points used to be.
All right.
So for anyone tuning in right now, we have a few more minutes, and we take some questions. If you want to chat them in, we have them here, and we are managing them. I do want to take this time while you guys are chatting in some questions to talk about our Cranney Cash program. So starting this week on the 1st of February, we are giving up to $1,000 to homeowners that are changing their heating and air conditioning systems. And these are true savings, right, Rich?
They're actual savings. It's, we're not. A lot of people will say, "Oh, we'll give you $1,000 cash card," but they're actually jacking up the price $1,000 to give the money back. Um, but what Brian Cranney wants to do is show an actual savings. These are the slower times of year for these industries, and so we have agreements with the manufacturers to give us significant price savings on these machines, which we can then in turn give back to the customers. So we're actually handing the customer a real $1,000 cash card that they can use anywhere. If they want to put it back towards the payment of the installation, fantastic. Or they can do whatever they want with it. But it's actual real money, and it's a great project.
And this program, this is on top of rebates, or this is rebates are
No,
still.
no, the rebates are above and beyond that. Yeah, so you can give the $1,000 cash card, but then they might, they could be getting a check from the state for up to, I think it's like $3,500
Yeah,
or
the
up to
early boiler
$3,000. Yeah, for early replacement guarantees. So there's a lot going for people right now if they're in the in the market for buying a new system.
So yeah, check out Cranney Cash. It really is a big deal. Again, if you want to chat in some questions about flue pipe, oh, we didn't even touch on flue pipes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about flue pipes for a second. So, what is a flue pipe?
Flue pipes are is the tubing or the ductwork where the flue gases from your furnace or boiler or water heater are ejected from the house. So that's how they exit the
Exhaust.
house, right? So that normally on a standard efficiency furnace or boiler, it would run right into a chimney. On the higher efficiency boilers and furnaces, they use PVC or CPVC piping, the white or gray piping, for intake and exhaust. Those usually end up exiting the house at ground level, usually from the basement, depending on where the system is, obviously. But they're usually around 3 to 4 feet off the ground, depending on the area and your annual snowfall. But you want to just make sure you keep those clear, because if they do choke, and it in fact does that, it'll shut the furnace off because it can't breathe. Or if you were to block off the exhaust and there was a leak somewhere else, it could introduce carbon monoxide into the house, which, as we know, is catastrophic.
Yeah, like we just talked about having carbon monoxide detectors.
Yeah, so you just want to make sure you keep them clear, make sure you keep the snow away from them, especially with the big storms we had a few years back, drifting and stuff like that. Just make sure they stay clear and everyone will be safe.
So for the homeowner, is it obvious to them what the flue pipe would be if they were to look at their system and?
It should be. It'll either be going to the chimney or there'll be two larger white or gray PVC,
Right, like you were saying.
PVC tubes heading outside.
Okay.
And they'll be labeled. Any of the installs that we do, we have to label them intake and exhaust, so and a plumbing inspector would know what he's looking at.
Mm-hmm,
And then
Frank
outside,
is incredible at that. I've seen some
Yeah.
of his installs; they're awesome.
Absolutely. And then outside the house too, there's going to be a big white or yellow sign that says gas vent down below. Make sure to keep it free from obstruction. So you just want to make sure you keep your eye on those. Make sure there's no leaves or feathers or anything that's kind of stuck in there, and
Right.
keep them clear.
It just seems like one of those. Just looking at your flue pipe come the spring and come the fall, it seems like one of those things that you should just work into your year, right?
Yeah, as you're walking around the yard doing your thing, maybe just take a quick peek at them. Just make sure that they're clear. Make sure the bushes aren't really growing right into them or anything like that. And then in the snow, in the winter time when there's snow or anything like that, you want to just make sure you keep them clear.
Absolutely. So keep your flue pipes clear. They are the exhaust. They're how your system breathes.
Yep, intake and
gets it.
exhaust. Yep.
So make sure to keep them clear. Give them a couple checks throughout the year, and you'll be good to go. So we didn't get any chats, so that's okay. But if you have any messages you want to read, just a question you didn't get a chance to ask or whatever, that chat on the bottom right corner of the website is still live, even if we're gone. There's a form there, or you can always reach out to us at Cranney Home Services, calling 1-800-CRANNEY. Make sure to check out our Cranney Cash, and always make sure to check out Cranney Cares. We give $1,000 away to a different nonprofit every month via random drawing that's now drawn Facebook Live.
Yep.
Did that for the first time last week.
I saw it. It was excellent.
And congratulations to the Merrimack Valley Food Bank.
Mm-hmm.
So we're very excited and actually taking the picture next week with them with a big check and everything. But this is great. This is our first live streamed Cranney Nook with Cranney Tech Talk. Thank you very much for joining us, Rich, and thank you all for joining us at home. And we'll be doing this same time next month.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone, and have a great weekend.
Thanks.